All right, we ready? And grab your bag and go. That's it, move. Go, 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 go. One, Armani suits and run.
All right. Welcome to week 2, the 2024 NFL season for Armani Suits and Run for the Circa Millions. Week 1, 2 and 3 as a team. Went into Monday night 2 and 2. Lost the pick on Monday night. We were Jets plus 4.5. 49ers obviously ended up kind of winning in a bit of a rout. What was it, like 33-13? Something like that.
I feel like it wasn't close for like 3 quarters. Like really not close for like 3 quarters.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like going into the fourth quarter, it was like, all right, we could score here.
There was like a non-zero chance.
Yeah.
Of a comeback.
Yeah.
You could kind of see it though in the Jets offense. Like they just like really like didn't have it that night. Like understandably so with like first game for Rodgers and all that. Like makes sense. But yeah, Niners are also they look really sharp for the most part. Besides Ayuk, who was clearly a little off, dropping the ball in the end zone. They were pretty much as good as advertised.
You see the clip of Peyton Manning from the Manning cast?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's going off about
sign the contract, get in camp, get your reps in, you make that catch. It's very simple.
And it is true. I mean, I've become like a big advocate for just like play in the preseason. Like just do it. Like I don't think it's that dangerous to play a couple drives every game and just get your feet wet, because it's like now that it's become kind of like the public consensus that the preseason's bad and everything like that, we've started to see a decline in the production in the first couple weeks. I mean, what is the last 2 years? It was like a massive drop. In passing touchdowns, in week 1, which is just crazy. So it's like just playing the preseason. We're seeing teams like the Falcons are talking about it, and Kirk Cousins had something where it's like, oh yeah, I just wish I could have gotten more live reps, blah blah blah. It's like, well, you could have, but your team decided to bench the entire starting lineup for the entire preseason.
It's also the type of thing that, like, I don't know, maybe you don't say that, like.
Yeah, like you should have just gotten more live reps. I don't know what to
tell
you.
It's also just like not the thing that your fans are going to want to hear.
No,
like,
not at all.
Yeah. Like, oh, you say that now, like, you owe.
And I thought that was like part of why you got all that money now, because it's like now you're secure.
Yeah.
So like, how about you play? But then I guess part of it does turn into like the franchise being like, well, this is our asset, and if we like, it might be more on the team side, and I don't think like a player is going to be like, yeah, like I don't mind resting for this week 1 preseason game or something like that. But yeah, I thought part of it was like, yeah, we give you all this guaranteed money. You're secure now. So if, God forbid, if something did happen, you're covered. Yeah. So it's like, just get out and play, and maybe you won't suck so bad for the first couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's why the Pats look so good this week too, because a lot of their guys got a significant run in the preseason, like rightfully so. A lot of unproven guys, but like
every person on that roster has been battling for a spot
for like a month, for like over a month. like you could tell, like there was a noticeable difference.
Yeah,
noticeable.
Yeah, the Bengals just like didn't play at all.
Wait, KB Jonnu, I think just hit his prop.
Yeah, I know. I think he just hit that prop. I'm checking now.
Bro, Jonnu is some sharp stuff, KB.
That's a sharp
play. Bro, that's in the mud.
25 plus alternate line.
Voluntarily jumped in the mud.
Awesome.
I mean, that's really my bread and butter. That's what the sheet's all about. The sheet really isn't about wide receiver ones and quarterbacks hitting all that stuff. It's about
the money is in the crumbs.
Yeah, it's about the wide receiver 3 receiving over 20 yards or the tight end touchdowns. That's really my bread and butter. So it's good to get back to that and just kind of establish the run for me. So good to have that. We just need one more Josh Allen touchdown. Maybe see Curtis Samuel lead a bit. We'll see how it goes.
Speaking of the sheet,
get back to week 1.
Speaking of the sheet, looking at the sheet, so let's just recap the week 1 pick. So we talked about the Monday night game. So as a team, we were on the Jets plus 4.5. We are tracking individual picks on the primetime games. I did have the 49ers minus 4.5. Obviously, Kieran and Bowen, you guys were on the Jets side, so that was the pick. For the Sunday night game, I guess we can just work backwards, talk primetime first. We did hit on the Sunday night game, so myself and Bowen were on the Lions minus 3.5. Rams plus 3.5 was the pick for Kieran. Great football game. I mean, that one could have gone either way, honestly. I mean, obviously, I mean, the game went to overtime.
It was like the perfect primetime game to like open a season. Just like checked all the boxes for me.
Well, and again, it was such a coin flip in terms of from a spread perspective, how that could have gone. We needed the Lions to win the toss because at that point they were incentivized to punch it in on the first drive, and that was the only way that we were going to cover. We obviously we got the field goal at the end of regulation because they had to tie it up, right? Rookie kicker hits the kick and then go to OT, win the coin toss. Great drive by the Lions. I mean, that was they just picked them apart.
Man Campbell.
Yep. Good to get the cover again in a coin flip game like that. Nice to come out on the right side. But just, really great football game. Thought both teams looked good. Thought the Rams looked good. Thought they got better as the game went on and, seemed to be okay without Puka in there. Kind of felt like, we had old Cooper Kupp a little bit, with the offense just going through him. So that was some good stuff. Any other thoughts on the game?
I thought both teams looked okay. I think that there definitely is some concern with the Rams with that run defense, especially at the end. You can say, okay, maybe they were just really tired by the end, but that last drive was crazy. Like they were just ripping off run after run after run. It was just David Montgomery the whole way. And at that point, it was like watching because I was obviously I picked the Rams on that one. I was like, oh Jesus Christ, like they're not pulling that off. But it became a competitive game. I felt like the Rams defense was opportunistic, especially when they had the clutch pick on Jared Goff and everything like that. But I felt overall like they were given a lot on the ground. They did take away Amon-Ra, but they allowed some big plays to Jameson Williams. So, we'll see how they can patch that up. I do think that the offense is going to be able to continue on pretty well without Puka Nacua, actually. We saw Tyler Johnson step in. And that's the thing. I think, fantasy talk, I think that he's kind of the guy to keep an eye on because he's the one that's listed directly behind Puka in that spot on the depth chart.
Yeah.
So DeMarcus Robinson, people think that he's going to be like the one that's going to step up and do that. When he had that hot stretch at the end of last season, he was doing that with Kupp and with Puka in the lineup. So I think that he's going to do that and do his thing no matter what. I think that they are going to have three receivers spread the ball out. So I don't think that he's going to see an increased workload, maybe marginally, but I do think that Tyler Johnson, he's going to be the one that steps into that starting role, and maybe he's not putting up a 10 catch, 122-yard game or something. But, we saw what he could do with 7 targets. He had, 65 yards ripped off that huge catch and run, late in the game. So I do think that offense will be able to play pretty well. And, that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I thought both teams looked fine for, a season opener. We'll see how some of those, red flags, how they can respond to that though.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So getting into the individual picks from the earlier slate. I lost with the Falcons minus 3.5. Kieran, I know you hated the pick. Man,
I found no pleasure in that.
But it's kind of the same, both QBs coming back from Achilles and, both just kind of didn't look good. And it's tough to, obviously we were sharing some of the tape that we were seeing. Kirk just not moving at all. It was I think they had him in a lot of pistol, a lot of shotgun, wasn't really under center much. And then you can just see how little he was really moving around in the pocket, trying to get it out of his hands quick.
It just felt like he had no zip. And he was a guy that was able to, really sling it in there and fit it into tight spots because of how, the velocity that he had, but he had no drive behind some of his throws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Most, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost looked like, like Mac Jones, like how soft he was throwing.
New England Mac Jones. Mac Jones looks great in Jacksonville preseason. It's the old Mac Jones. Yeah, just pretty brutal. I mean, Pitt was, made the late decision to, not decision, but Wilson was a late scratch over the weekend. Put Fields
Still
in.
in Jersey though on the sidelines.
Yeah,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I
It's
saw that.
crazy.
That guy.
Was crazy.
He's a gamer.
That was crazy.
It's like when Jameis Winston suited up when he was suspended. Wasn't he suspended for the game?
Yeah. But Jameis was like a 20-year-old in college.
He was
Russ
also
like
he was
35.
suspended.
Russ was like 35.
I'm pretty sure that he was suspended because in like the dining hall,
Yes.
stood up on his chair and said "fuck her right in the pussy,"
Yes.
and he was suspended for like the first quarter or some shit.
Yes. Yeah, it was like first half or something, but unbelievable. I don't think the Pitt offense necessarily did anything remarkable. I think it was just, the Falcons offense was.
Yeah, I think they had 5 or 6 field goals. That was all their points.
Yeah, pretty much. So just shouldn't have put so much stock in a team with a QB coming off a ruptured Achilles, but you learn and you move on. So
yeah, I mean, I think both of those games, that and the Jets, I think those were just major note to self moments where it's like, I mean, I think we all had our concerns about it, and we were like, yeah, we don't know how he's going to respond.
Yeah.
And I think in hindsight, it's just like we should have known better. Like maybe we should have just on both of them. We should have just wait and see. Don't trust it because I mean, even I said, it's like we've never seen a football player really come back from a torn Achilles.
Yep.
And be good yet. So it's like, why do we think that these guys, especially on this quick of a timeline, why would they be better? I think that they were serviceable at times. Like I think Rodgers looked a little bit better, and obviously he's had more time to recover. But yeah, he looked so much more just like a quarterback that was delivering the ball, but not special like Aaron Rodgers. Where I don't know, Kirk, he looked so weak at times.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's Kieran next. Kieran hit with the Colts plus 2.5. Great game.
Sweaty
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, for sure. Kieran, any thoughts on that in terms of what you saw and just how you feeling coming away from it?
Yeah, I mean, it felt good to get a win like that. Especially with how, like Zach was saying, how sweaty it was. It's good to sweat through that and then come out on the right side. I mean, there were definitely times where I'm like, oh shit, this is where it's gonna slip away from them. But I think it just kind of I had a decent read where I was maybe expecting a little bit of a regression from Houston, and I think that they obviously ran the ball incredibly with Joe Mixon, but I think overall it wasn't too crazy on their offense. So they were able to get some touchdowns in there, but that defense, they were very vulnerable downfield, and Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, they were able to have success on the ground as well. So, yeah, I think it just kind of played out how I saw it. It felt nice.
Good. And then Bowen, Raiders plus 3.
Yep. So I'm just gonna
2-10.
hand up. Week 1. I think I got too cute with that pick. I was throwing out a lot of things that weren't maybe significant to the football game in real life. Devontae Adams' grandparents being in attendance, being a big swaying reason. Too cute.
In
hindsight,
perhaps not as significant as I thought.
No, it never is. I think I played with my food a little bit. My number 2 pick for the week was the Cowboys. I felt really, really strongly about them all week, and just went against them because I saw a video on Twitter of Antonio Pierce giving a speech. So, gotta go. More with my gut there. Don't get too cute with it. It's just football.
Don't fall for the videos on Twitter either.
I'm such an idiot like that though. I love them. I can't get enough. So it's something I got to build with, get better from. But yeah, and it sucks too because the Raiders, if Antonio Pierce wasn't a coward and he just fucking didn't punt on 2 clear 4th and 1 go for it on the other side of the 50 in the Chargers territory, that game, it was a 6-point game when they punted or they kicked the field goal on like the 20-yard line. I think it was 30-yard line. It was like 4th and 1. And then they punted on 4th and 1 with like 7 minutes left from like the Chargers 40-yard line. And it was just like, like it's not winning football, it's cowardly football. They like maxed out the cat. What's the Kieran? You probably know the cowardly punt index or whatever, or the
that's what it's called.
they were like 100 out of 100 on this like terrible calls there. So um, game I'd like to have back, but we move on.
All right. Speaking of moving on, let's move on to week 2.
Ooh,
All
transition went crazy.
right, Kieran, are you ready? Want to pull up the wheel?
See it?
Yep.
Wow.
Tristan.
Look at that. All right. Well, I already talked about this team a little bit. But I am going to go with the Rams +1 over the Cardinals. A few things I'm going to, say we kind of already talked about, but I'll just reiterate. And then I've got some interesting trends that I thought, really gave me confidence in this pick. I really like the way that the Rams looked last week, against a very good Lions team who was at home in prime time. I thought Stafford really seemed to warm up throughout the course of the game. Offense looked good going through Cup, after Puka went out. Kieran, you talked about Tyler Johnson, really stepped up. Seems to be a guy that's going to have probably the bigger opportunity between him and Robinson to step up. Cardinals had the Bills on the ropes early, but, unable to execute in big spots down the stretch. I think they blew like a 16-point lead. And ended up losing, I think it was by 6. So they did cover, but I do think it's a better Cardinals team than last year. I think Kyler's definitely healthier. But LA, very good, very strong and bounce back spots with McVay. McVay 27-17-1 against the spread against divisional opponents. He's 12-12-1 against Arizona. Kyler Murray's 1-7-1 against the spread against the Rams. He's failed to cover by 8.4 points per game. McVay, also one of the best coaches against the spread on the road on short rest in the last 20 years. He's 8-2. Second only to Mike McCarthy, also tied with Kyle Shanahan on that stat, which is relevant. So I like the Rams +1 over the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like the pick. For pretty much all the reasons that you listed. I mean, I do think that this Cardinals team is better. I mean, it wouldn't totally shock me if they were, especially, playing at home, if they did pull off the win. But if I was picking a side, it's definitely, the Rams for all those reasons. It just seems like that they've always been able to shut down Kyler Murray pretty good. I do think last year when he came back, I think he had like a good game or something. But for the most part, most of his career, they've always been able to contain him. So, yeah, I mean, I would trust McVay in the spot.
Yeah, pretty much just reiterating all your points. I really like it. They were on my top 3 games. I think they were probably, gun to my head, probably 3. But that was definitely a game I had circled. Like to pick a lot.
All right. First picks in. Back to the wheel.
Bowen.
Perfect. Lions. I think a 7-point spread. I think it's even 7.
Yep.
I think we already talked about the Lions a bit earlier in the show. I think against the Bucs are pretty depleted in their secondary. Antoine Winfield is out for like the next month or so. And then 3 of their cornerbacks, 2 of them are out for sure this week. So they're going to be light in the secondary. I think, although it was a fun game last week, there was a lot to be desired from Laporta and Amon-Ra, and those guys just demand targets, and I think they're going to get him this game. I think they might just boat race the Bucs here. The Bucs, all things considered, like really good last week. Think that may have been due to their matchup. I think they got a pretty easy draw week one. I think playing against the Lions team that looks pretty improved on defense, sound on offense, they just kind of run into a buzzsaw here. Don't have the chops to put up enough points. I believe the Lions are projected, or their line right now is the highest in the NFL this week for total points. The prop bet, it's 29.5, I believe. So Vegas thinks they're going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to score a lot of points, and I think their defense is improves enough to cover that number pretty easily.
Karen, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Lions at home. We know how how
Yeah.
much better they perform when they're playing. When Goff's playing inside, and especially when he's playing at home. So I think that's good. I do like because I think I wrote the spreads down last night, and I had it at 7.5. So I do like that it came down to the full touchdown. I was just checking when they played in the playoffs last year. I mean, the Bucs, obviously they kept it close, and I think that they were a little bit of a surprise, but they still lost by 8 points there. So I do think that this could be, a high scoring game back and forth. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Bucs hang around for a little bit, but I do think that especially at home, the Lions will, eventually pull away.
Yeah, just to back up your Goff point. Goff against the spread indoors 36-17. ATS, he's 26-9 the last 4 seasons.
Wow.
Goff is 12-3 against the spread week 1 and 2 of his career. It's the best against ATS of any QB in the last 20 years. First 2 weeks of the season. Most profitable QB against the spread over the last 5 years overall. And then just a little nugget. So the Bucs, this is all from Action Network. Bucs closed as 4-point favorites versus the Commanders this week. They're 7-point dogs to the Lions. Since 1990, we've only seen 4 teams win week 1 by 17 plus points and be a 7+ point dog in week 2. Rams last year were the last team to do so. Those 4 teams are 1-3 against the spread, 0-4 straight up, and they've lost by 17.5.
Wow.
Per game. So a lot of trends in our favor with respect to being on the side of the Lions.
Cool. Those felt great. I didn't know Goff was that savvy in the first 2 weeks of the season. That's
Yeah, you think
good.
you might come to the show with those stats to back up your pick, but I'm glad that we could provide those for you.
I appreciate it. That's why I know that you guys already have them, so I just come with an open mind to these calls.
That's why we're a team.
Yes.
Team. All right, let's go to the wheel.
All right.
All right. All right. None of my games were touched. That always makes it tough. Where you're going third, you got all 3 options. You like to have maybe one knocked off, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Go with your gut.
I'm taking the Vikings +5.
Mm.
I like them at home. They beat the Niners in Minnesota last year. That was with Kirk Cousins. No Justin Jefferson. That's when Jordan Addison had that crazy 100+ yard, 2-touchdown game. Addison, he's probably not going to play this week. It doesn't sound like it. He's got the ankle injury from last week. But Jefferson's back. Jefferson played well. He had a touchdown. Aaron Jones was running all over the Giants last week. He scored a touchdown as well. Darnold was pretty good. I mean, it's not just from looking at his stats. Obviously, he wasn't totally eye-popping. James Cook just scored a 3rd touchdown, by the way, in the first half. But it was more so, when you're looking at some guys on Twitter, like the tape guys, they talk about all these great decisions that Darnold's making, how the system's working for him. So I do think that there's familiarity between, Kevin O'Connell and Shanahan and the McVays and all those guys. And I think that, Brian Flores, he's got the defense kind of, they're playing well. I think that the Giants, as bad as they are, they were a good warm up last week. I was not crazy impressed with the Niners last week. I still think that, even though they ended up, crushing me on my Jets read, I still think that what I saw from them and the reason that I was fading them is still, somewhat valid. I feel like Brock Purdy's still not totally sharp. He really wasn't in the preseason. He didn't look totally sharp and as accurate as he was, in his first 2 seasons. Ayuk, obviously, he looked very rusty, and I think admittedly so from him. So, I think that there are some things for them to work on, and I think that this is another spot where the Vikings can maybe sneak up on him for a second year in a row.
I really like the pick. I don't have the plums for a pick like that. But 5 points feels a little. It does feel. I know they're at home, but it does feel a little bit light for in a vacuum. This Vikings team with Darnold versus the Niners, but that's kind of why I like the Viking side a little bit more. It feels a little wonky. I also you really can't predict, or you kind of have to assume Jefferson's gonna just take advantage of every matchup that he pretty much has put in front of him, and he's a game breaker. He's a game ruiner. Aaron Jones, like you said, looked great last week. And Darnold looked great. So I like them to keep rolling. I like KOC as a coach. I think he's really, really sharp. So yeah, I like to pick.
Yeah, and I've just been banging that draw more. It's like I felt like people were fading Sam Darnold, and I get it. He was not great on the Jets. I do think that he was better than he's maybe getting credit for on the Panthers. But I do think that rehab season in San Francisco is something that would be good for a quarterback's career. So I think that him going from that, going to the Vikings with a somewhat familiar system with KOC, I think that's just been good for him. And we saw it last week where, yeah, he had an interception and, it was only like 200 something yards. It wasn't, insane, but, I just thought he played really well. And I think that he can play consistent, and they're going to be at home now. I think that it's a good spot for them to, keep it close, especially with, getting 5 points.
I support the pick. I did have the Niners on my card, but I support the pick. Just a few stats in terms of why I was on the Niners side. I mentioned this earlier when talking about McVay. Shanahan 8-2 against the spread. Short rest on the road. It's the same, same scenario as the Rams and McVay. In those situations, they've covered the spread by 7.3 points per game. 49ers are 35-28 against the spread when looking for revenge against an opponent they lost to in their last meeting. They have covered in 5 straight road games, and Darnold 8-11-1 ATS coming off a straight up win, including 1-5 ATS in his last 6. Darnold has won by 20 plus points, both with the Jets, and his team scored a total of 18 points combined in their next game, losing both outright. So those were the trends I was seeing. I was on the Niners side, but go Vikes.
I will say I'm not too interested in anything about Darnold and the Jets.
Fair.
I just don't count it.
Yeah.
Or on the Matt Rule Panthers.
Oh. Very, very forgettable.
Matt Rule Panthers. What an era that was.
He went from Adam
Jesus
Gase to Matt Rule to Kyle Shanahan to Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah. All right. So we've got, in terms of individual picks, I'm on the Rams +1. Kiernan's on the Vikings +5. Bowen on the Lions -7. We move to the Sunday night matchup. We've got the Texans and Bears. Texans are 6.5 point favorites. Let's go to the wheel.
Tristan.
Ooh, okay. I'm on the Texans. For the Bears, teams who play on the road after a straight up win in their previous game, coming back from 17 plus points, are 20-33 straight up, 23-29-1 against the spread the next week over the last 20 years. Rookie QBs 25-57 straight up on the road in a primetime spot since 1970. When that type of situation, that type of game has been played in the first 4 games, they're 4-10 straight up. This is Stroud's second night primetime spot. He won over Indianapolis last year, 23-19. as a 1.5-point favorite in a similar spot. The story for Chicago last week was really just the defense capitalizing on some bad turnovers from Will Levis. Not really anything that the offense did. I mean, Caleb Williams, what was the stat? He had what, over 25 attempts, less than 100 yards.
Yeah.
Just not, I mean, disgusting. Stroud obviously much further along. I mean, he's in his second season, but I mean, he's not playing like a guy that is in his second game of his second season. And I just don't see him making critically bad mistakes like Levis did last week. They got a great run game, with Mixon there. Obviously Mixon had a great week last week. They can stay balanced. They can open up the passing game. Not that it really needs any opening up, but they've got three great receivers there. With Diggs, obviously, what did Diggs have? I think he had a couple touchdowns last week.
Yep.
Short ones. Nico Collins had a great week. Tank's back. So I see them putting Chicago away. I see them covering. I think these are just two totally different football teams. I think one is significantly better than the other. So I'm going to take the Texans with the points on Sunday night, or laying the points on Sunday night.
You want a KB?
I'll tell you. I have the Bears. I honestly I was watching that Texans Colts game. I had that on the TV all, afternoon. So I just really wasn't, like I said earlier, I just wasn't that impressed by the Texans. I felt like their defense, they were obviously getting killed by the deep ball. And Anthony Richardson actually missed some throws there. And, I mean, maybe we can't tout Caleb Williams as the great thrower of the football based on what we've seen from the preseason. And, I mean, with the 88 yards last week and everything like that. But I don't know. I just feel like the Texans haven't earned this big of a line. I think the Chicago defense is really good. And we saw what they were able to do to get them back in the game. And, of course, you can say, well, Will Levis was making some of the most insane mistakes we've ever seen. But at the same time, they had him that flustered that he thought that he could, do that, and that would be a better option. So, they were causing that pressure, and it was all them, scoring those touchdowns, spurring that comeback. So I think that, that Bears defense can be feeling really good coming off of that game. And, I just feel like you have to expect at least a little bit of a bounce back game for that Bears offense. And, maybe Caleb can sharpen it up a little bit and throw a little bit better. But, I just feel like they can get it done on the ground a little bit. I have Caleb Williams actually, he's like 4-1 to score a touchdown. So I actually like him to run one in himself, but I just feel like he can make something happen, and maybe he can connect on some of those deep balls that the Colts were getting last week, and, maybe keep this close enough. I just feel like it's too big of a spread.
Is he? He's plus 400 to run one to score a touchdown.
It was like this afternoon, yeah.
Jesus, that does seem awfully high. Not that I'm a big Caleb Williams guy, and I'm betting against him, but that just, I love value.
So,
All right, well, break the tie.
I'm gonna go Texans. The Bears are a long way away. I think from having a competent offense, at least especially considering the setbacks that they're due to have this week with Rome and potentially Keenan Allen out this week. So it might be a DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift supporting cast, and I don't even know who's really behind the three receivers there. So who will really be getting wide receiver run this week? So I don't really love the Bears losing those guys immediately and then having to face a team like the Texans. I think it could get out of hand. It has the potential to get out of hand pretty quickly if that Bears defense isn't they did play out of their mind last week. But I don't know if you can expect that from them every week, especially 2 weeks in a row against two really solid offenses, or who project to be really solid offenses. So I'm going Texans. I think the 6.5 is a good number for what the Texans showed and what they showed last year into this year, and especially with Diggs now. I think they're going to be able to put up 25 plus points against this Bears defense. And I think that'll be more than enough to clear that number. So,
all right. Bowen and I on Sunday night again.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
shall.
it was 0-2 in primetime picks, so
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. Let's move on to the Monday night game. We got the Eagles -6.5 against the Falcons. The Kirk Cousins led
Ugh. Ugh.
the Kirk Cousins prime time.
All right. So it's the Eagles. And it's kind of for what we were talking about earlier. With these old quarterbacks coming off Achilles injuries. We have yet to see it from Kirk Cousins. So I think I'm gonna listen to us about an hour ago, and until we see it from Kirk, until we see it, I just cannot bet on it. So Eagles, and also not for nothing, Eagles looked really good last week. They played a pretty good game. Uh, obviously with that offense that they have, I think they should be able to take care of this Falcons team, who may have a little bit more moments than last week. But ultimately, you got to see it from Kirk in that offense before you can put any trust, especially if we're sitting on a 2-2, 3-1 week. I just wouldn't want to have wouldn't want to have Kirk Cousins in the back pocket there. It just feels like a bad spot to be.
Kieran, you want it?
I'm on the Falcons +6.5. It just feels too easy. Does it not feel too easy? We're talking about a team that's coming back from Brazil, all that travel. I understand that they played on a Friday. They've had extra rest. This is on a Monday night, but I just feel like that travel, that's got to take a toll on the body. I don't care what type of resources they have. I would just rather not have to make that trip to Brazil and back and deal with everything and all that comes with that. Inside a touchdown, it just feels too easy to me. I mean, we watched the Eagles. They were getting slashed on the ground. They allowed, what do I got here? 5.3 yards per carry to Josh Jacobs last week. They allowed some big plays to Jaden Reed. They allowed Christian Watson to score a short touchdown as well. Romeo Doubs, he didn't put up eye-popping numbers, but he had like 4 or 5 catches on 7 targets. He had like 40, 50 yards. He was getting what he wanted, especially on that the first couple drives. So, yeah, I feel like it's a little wonky to just be betting on a team. I just don't want to overlook the fact that the Eagles, they went to Brazil. The defense really wasn't that great, and then now they're flying back and they're playing a game. I want to draw attention to that, so I'm on the Falcons +6.5.
I'm on the Eagles.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I'm fading Atlanta after a dreadful performance. Kirk's lack of mobility just seems like a problem. I don't know how quickly that's going to get better. And I think against a Philly defensive line with somebody as violent and offensive as Jalen Carter, I frankly worry about Kirk's health. And they've got a good secondary. I mean, I think with that pressure, I think they can generate some turnovers. Similar to what Pitt was able to do. And love the balanced attack from Philly. With Saquon back there, obviously had a great week 1. Hurts 17-9-1 ATS at home in his career, 8-1-1 against the spread at home in prime time. He's the best in that spot since he was drafted. The 5th most profitable QB in that spot in the last 20 years. And then Cousins' history in primetime, 16-25 against the spread, 13-18 against the spread in primetime at night. Primetime including playoff spots, as well as overseas. So that's the distinction between in primetime and primetime at night. So all that being said, I'm Eagles -6.5. That's the pick.
Very nice.
All right. So let me pull up the tracker. And just to recap. So we've got Rams +1. That's my pick. Vikings +5. That is Kieran's pick. Lions -7 is Bowen. Texans -6.5 on Sunday night. Myself and Bowen are on that side. And then Eagles -6.5 on Monday night. That's Bowen and I again. Those are the picks.
I like them. You got to get off that 2-3, 3-2 schneid. I want a big week. I crave a big week. I really do.
I would love a 5-0. We didn't have one last year, did we?
No, we're so
No.
fucking due. It's
We
like
are.
we're
We
so
are.
fucking due. This is week 20.
Yeah.
1 in 20 weeks, we should get 1 5-0. I just ran the numbers. Statistically speaking, we probably should. So
Yeah.
feels good. Feels right.
All right. I'm gonna.
Are we? Well, maybe do you want to cut the show? I don't want to. Maybe cut the show.
All right, I'll stop.
Yeah.